out of all the accumulation method, there was one that in the past was not among my favorite. But the more I learned about how the muscle grow and how you can train a muscle and nervous system to rely on that muscle, I became more adept of that method. I started using it a lot more in my own training. It's called pre-fatigue. Now, pre-fatigue refers to doing 2 exercises as a superset, meaning that there is very little, if any, rest between the 2 movements. Now, pre-fatigue, what you're doing an isolation exercise, a movement focusing only on one muscle group, and then doing a multi-joint exercise in which that muscle is involved. For example, I might start by doing dumbbell lateral raises, for example, doing 8 to 10 reps. Then as soon as I'm done here, fatiguing my shoulders, I would move to the barbell and do strict press, for example, military press, which involves the shoulder, which I just pre-fatigued, but also involves the triceps and upper chest. Now, the reason why I didn't like pre-fatigue in the past is that first of all, you're using less weight because I'm fatiguing a muscle involved in the movement. So obviously in that big compound lift, I'm using less weight. But recent studies have shown that when you're training for muscle mass, if you go to muscle failure until you can't complete another rep, the weight used actually doesn't matter. You can stimulate just as much growth with 30% of your max as you can with 80% of your max. So that argument throws that out the window. Another reason why I didn't like it is I figured, well, normally you do pre-fatigue for the weak muscle. So the lagging muscle group in a movement would be done as a pre-fatigue exercise. Now I reason, well, if I'm pre-fatiguing a weak muscle, my brain will learn to rely on the other muscles, which is a critique that we often find about pre-fatigue. In reality, what happens is that by fatiguing the weaker muscle, you have to understand this, if you have a muscle that you have problem making larger, it's because you're not good at recruiting it, especially its fast twitch fibers. So by doing a pre-fatigue, I'm doing 2 things. I'm pre-fatiguing that muscle, so I'm fatiguing the muscle fibers. If I'm fatiguing the muscle fibers, it means that when I switch to the bigger lift, I will recruit the fast twitch fibers in that muscle sooner. I'm building up fatigue, so the body has to recruit the fast twitch fibers to produce enough force. So that's the first thing. Also, I'm creating a local pump with the isolation movement, which increase the awareness of that muscle. If I'm more aware of that muscle because of the pump, I can feel it work better in the main movement. And as a result, I can make micro adjustment to increase the contraction, the involvement of that muscle in the exercise. So it becomes a great teaching tool. Pre-fatigue is not only a great muscle building method, it's also a great neural reprogramming method. And really that's where it's at. If you want to make a weaker muscle grow, you have to learn to contract it and use it optimally in an exercise. And pre-fatigue will reprogram your brain to recruit that muscle, that lagging muscle group, in the big compound movement. It's an investment in future gains because once you have changed your motor pattern, you're becoming good at recruiting that muscle, then every time you will do that movement in the future, now you will recruit that muscle much more easily, making it grow at a much faster pace. So it's not only a good hypertrophy method, it's a motor learning tool, an investment in future progress.